Hello there. Welcome to our new video. In this lesson, you'll enhance your listening skills, boost your English speaking skills, and learn new vocabulary. We will have a three-part exercise. Part 1. Listening practice. Part 2. Question and answer practice. Part 3. Vocabulary review. Ready to improve your English skills? Let's get started. Part 1. Listening practice. Listen carefully to the following story.
Mark's weekend turned into a series of unfortunate events. On Saturday, his car suddenly stopped working while he was on the way to meet a friend. Frustrated but hopeful, he called a mechanic for help. However, the news wasn't what he wanted to hear. The mechanic informed him that the required parts weren't immediately available, and, to make matters worse, it would take a full week to get them delivered. With no car and no quick solution, Mark now faced the challenge of getting to work. He decided he would have to rely on the bus. Unfortunately, the buses in his area were notorious for being late and overcrowded. This thought only added to his frustration. On Monday morning, Mark met his friend Lisa at a coffee shop. "How was your weekend?" she asked, noticing his tired expression. Mark sighed deeply and shared the series of problems he'd faced. Lisa listened patiently and shook her head. "That's tough," she said sympathetically. "I hope things start looking up soon." "Thanks, Lisa," Mark replied. "I'll figure something out." "It's frustrating, but I'll manage somehow." Though the week ahead seemed daunting, Mark was determined to push through the challenges, knowing things would eventually improve.
Part 2. Question and answer practice. Now let's go over the story again, and this time, I'll ask questions along the way. Try to answer each question out loud in a complete sentence before I reveal the answer.
Mark's weekend turned into a series of unfortunate events. Did Mark have a good weekend? No, Mark didn't have a good weekend. What kind of events did Mark experience over the weekend? He experienced a series of unfortunate events. On Saturday, his car suddenly stopped working while he was on the way to meet a friend. Did Mark's car stop working on Sunday? No, his car stopped working on Saturday. Was he on his way to a meeting? Yes, he was on his way to meet a friend. Frustrated but hopeful, he called a mechanic for help. Did Mark call a mechanic because he was happy? No, he called the mechanic because he was frustrated. Was Mark hopeful when he called the mechanic? Yes, he was hopeful, but he was still frustrated. However, the news wasn't what he wanted to hear. Was the news good or bad? The news was bad. Was Mark happy with the news? No, he wasn't happy with the news. The mechanic informed him that the required parts weren't immediately available, and, to make matters worse, it would take a full week to get them delivered. Did the mechanic say the parts were available immediately? No, the parts weren't available immediately. How long did the mechanic say it would take to get the parts? It would take a full week to get them delivered. With no car and no quick solution, Mark now faced the challenge of getting to work. Did Mark have a car to get to work? No, he didn't have a car. Did he have an easy solution for getting to work? No, he didn't have a quick solution. He decided he would have to rely on the bus. Did Mark decide to use his car to get to work? No, he decided to rely on the bus. Was this a good solution for him? No, it wasn't because the buses were late and overcrowded. Unfortunately, the buses in his area were notorious for being late and overcrowded. Were the buses in Mark's area known for being on time? No, the buses were notorious for being late. Was Mark excited about using the bus? No, he wasn't excited because the buses were overcrowded. This thought only added to his frustration. Did the thought of using the bus help Mark feel better? No, it made him more frustrated. Was Mark frustrated or calm? He was frustrated. On Monday morning, Mark met his friend Lisa at a coffee shop. did Mark meet Lisa on Saturday? No, he met Lisa on Monday morning. Where did Mark meet Lisa? He met Lisa at a coffee shop. How was your weekend? She asked, noticing his tired expression. Did Lisa notice that Mark looked tired? Yes, she noticed his tired expression. What did Lisa ask Mark about? She asked him how his weekend was. Mark sighed deeply and shared the series of problems he'd faced. Did Mark talk about his problems calmly? No, he sighed deeply and shared his problems. Did he share his frustrations with Lisa? Yes, he shared the problems he faced. Lisa listened patiently and shook her head. Did Lisa interrupt Mark when he was talking? No, Lisa listened patiently. What did Lisa do when she heard Mark's problems? She shook her head. That's tough, she said sympathetically. Was Lisa unsympathetic to Mark's situation? No, she was sympathetic. What did she say to Mark? She said, that's tough. I hope things start looking up soon. Did Lisa hope things would stay bad for Mark? No, she hoped things would improve.
Part 3. Vocabulary Review. Now, let's review some of the new vocabulary from the story.
Frustrated. Feeling upset or annoyed because something is not going as planned. Example. Mark felt frustrated when his car stopped working unexpectedly. Hopeful. Feeling optimistic that something will improve. Example. Even though Mark faced challenges, he was hopeful that the mechanic could help. Notorious. Widely known for something negative or undesirable. Example. The buses in Mark's area were notorious for being late, overcrowded, having too many people in a space. Example. Mark dreaded taking the bus because it was always overcrowded. Sympathetic. Showing understanding or compassion for someone's struggles. Example. Lisa was sympathetic to Mark's tough situation and encouraged him. Daunting. Something that feels overwhelming or intimidating. Example. Mark thought the week ahead seemed daunting because of his transportation issues. Tired. Feeling physically or mentally exhausted. Example. Mark looked tired after dealing with all the stressful events over the weekend. Manage. To deal with or handle a situation. Example. Despite his frustration, Mark was determined to manage the situation. Sigh. A deep breath out, often expressing frustration or relief. Example. Mark let out a long sigh as he explained his problems to Lisa. Push through. To continue working or dealing with something despite difficulties. Example. Mark decided to push through the week, knowing things would eventually improve. Chaotic. Messy or disorganized. Example. Mark's weekend became chaotic after his car broke down. Required, necessary, or essential. Example. The mechanic told Mark that the required parts weren't available immediately. To make matters worse. A phrase used to indicate that something has made a bad situation even worse. Example. To make matters worse, Mark learned that it would take a full week to get the car parts delivered. Determined. Having a strong resolve to achieve something despite difficulties. Example. Mark was determined to find a way to get to work despite his car troubles, eventually. At some point in the future, after a delay or difficulties. Example. Lisa reminded Mark that things would eventually improve if he stayed patient.
Great job! You've completed all 3 parts of the lesson. Keep practicing, and your English skills will continue to improve.